But for now, let's turn to our politics lead. When it comes to policy, it has seemed that the only consistent thing about President Trump has been, in many ways, his inconsistency. So when he swore Obamacare would be repealed and replaced simultaneously, perhaps it was only a matter of time before he would take the opposite position, which he tweeted today, saying, quote, if Republican senators are unable to pass what they are working on now, they should immediately repeal and then replace at a later date. That complicates negotiations for Republican lawmakers who are trying to reach consensus on the legislation. Let's get more right now with CNN's Jim Acosta, who's at the White House.
Standing with the South Korean president, President Trump issued yet another dire warning on the threat posed by North Korea.
The era of strategic patience with the North Korean regime has failed. Many years, and it's failed. And frankly, that patience is over.
But as the president was leaving the Rose Garden, nearly all of the questions shouted at him were not about national security. They were about the president's tweets and his ongoing war of words with MSNBC hosts Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski, who now allege White House aides made them an offer. Go softer on your coverage of Mr. Trump, and the president will kill a story about the TV hosts in the National Enquirer.
They said, if you call the president up and you apologize for your coverage, then he will pick up the phone and basically spike the story.
A White House official confirmed Scarborough did speak with the president's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, but the official denied there was ever any offer of a quid pro quo. Top White House advisor Kellyanne Conway said it's all about counterpunching critics in the media. Critics Conway described as unpatriotic.
It doesn't help the American people to have a president covered in this light. I'm sorry, it's neither productive nor patriotic.
The president is also disrupting Senate negotiations over health care, tweeting, if Republican senators are unable to pass what they are working on now, they should immediately repeal and then replace at a later date. That mirrors the suggestion from some GOP lawmakers who are growing frustrated with the logjam in the Senate.
What I am recommending is that we give comfort to the American people by repealing the maximum amount of Obamacare that we can, but add a one-year delay before that would be effective, so there's an action-forcing event so that we get to work.
Problem is, it's not what the president promised.
We're going to do it simultaneously. It'll be just fine. We're not going to have like a 2-day period, and we're not going to have a 2-year period where there's nothing. It will be repealed and replaced.
Even some Republicans say splitting up repeal and replace won't work.
The problem is we know how Washington works. You can't, sometimes on deadlines, we still don't get things done.
Now, as for health care, White House officials tried to clarify the president's stance today, saying they're looking at all options. Asked whether the president now just favors an approach of repealing and not. Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders said the president's thinking has not changed on the issue. Jake.
All right, Jim Acosta at the White House for us. Thank you. As we've been reporting, the hosts of MSNBC's Morning Joe are now raising questions about whether the President of the United States and White House staff abused the power of the office by demanding that Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski drop their critical coverage with the threat of a nasty story about them in the National Enquirer, published by a Trump friend, that publication. CNN correspondent Jessica Schneider joins me now. And Jessica, this is quite a serious charge by Joe and Mika. Have they provided any evidence to back it up, text messages or whatever? And how is the White House responding?
Well, Jake, as for Joe Scarborough, he has not provided any text messages or call logs, but he does say that they exist to prove that he was contacted by 3 White House officials who urged him to call the president to make this National Enquirer story go away. Now, as for the White House itself, they are batting back at all of this entire story, saying that it was in fact Joe Scarborough who called Jared Kushner, and there were no such promises of killing this National Enquirer story.
Tonight, a new allegation from the MSNBC hosts engaged in a war with the White House. Mika Brzezinski and Joe Scarborough claim they were threatened by the White House this spring.
We got a call that, hey, the National Enquirer is going to run a negative story against you guys. And they said, if you call the president up and you apologize for your coverage, then he will pick up the phone and basically spike the story. 3 people at the very top of the administration calling me.
Brzezinski and Scarborough first lobbed the accusation in a Washington Post column Friday morning after the president personally attacked the cable news hosts, tweeting, "I heard poorly rated Out Morning Joe speaks badly of me. Don't watch anymore." Then how come low IQ Crazy Mika, along with Psycho Joe, came to Mar-a-Lago 3 nights in a row around New Year's Eve and insisted on joining me? She was bleeding badly from a facelift. I said no.
He appears to have a fragile, impetuous, childlike ego that we've seen over and over again, especially with women. It's like he can't take it.
This was the story the National Enquirer ultimately ran in June, accusing the couple of cheating on their spouses. Brzezinski said the tabloid hounded her family to get the story.
They were calling my children. They were calling close friends.
You're talking about the National Enquirer.
The president has close ties to the Enquirer, which endorsed him during the 2016 campaign and has relentlessly attacked his political adversaries. President Trump and the National Enquirer publisher David Pecker are close friends and allies. The National Enquirer's editor-in-charge, Dylan Howard, issued this statement. At the beginning of June, we accurately reported a story that recounted the relationship between Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski, the truth of which is not in dispute. At no time did we threaten either Joe or Mika or their children in connection with our reporting on the story. We have no knowledge of any discussions between the White House and Joe and Mika about our story, and absolutely no involvement in those discussions. After the explosive accusation from the couple on air, the president responded, tweeting, "Watched low-rated Out Morning Joe for the first time in long time. Fake news. He called me to stop a National Enquirer article. I said no. Bad show." Scarborough quoted the president's tweets and called him out. "Yet another lie. I have texts from your top aides and phone records. Also, those records show I haven't spoken with you in many months." NBC confirmed to CNN that Scarborough told NBC News executives about the threats and calls from the White House as they were happening. But the White House is putting out a different spin. An official says it was Joe Scarborough who called Jared Kushner about the upcoming National Enquirer story. Kushner then told Scarborough to call the president, but the official denies there was any indication that the president would help kill the Enquirer's story in exchange. The president himself did not answer questions about the accusations at his joint press conference today. And the White House has not released any official statement on those accusations. Joe Scarborough, meanwhile, has not responded to CNN's request for additional details on his version of those events. Jake?
All right, Jessica Snyder, thank you so much. We have much more to talk about in our politics lead today, including